Underneath the well-known elements of the Gears of War lore, from the Locust Horde, to the COG, to the Pendulum Wars, to the Lambent, and so on, there are some strange and unexplained mysteries in the Gears expanded universe. As always, I'm your host Abz, and today I've compiled 5 of the biggest unexplained mysteries in Gears of War lore. Number 1. Who the hell is the 4th Carmine brother? In Gears of War 2, Benjamin Carmine confirmed to Dom that there were 4 Carmine brothers, 3 left after the death of Anthony, and there would be 2 brothers left after the death of Benjamin himself. Clayton Carmine broke the Carmine curse and became known as the Grub Killer, the unkillable Carmine. Clayton Carmine was the eldest Carmine brother, but there is also another brother yet to be seen in Gears lore. This Carmine brother is older than Ben and Anthony, but younger than Clayton. The 4th brother has yet to be named or introduced, but has apparently survived the Locust War and had a daughter, Elizabeth Carmine, also known as Lizzie Carmine. We know this as Elizabeth called Clayton uncle. Her name begins with an E, so it can be assumed that the 4th Carmine brother's name begins with a D. Now just to clarify, Gary Carmine is not the 4th Carmine brother. Just to debunk that little theory, he was born after the Locust War had ended, so he was a lot younger, and he idolized Clayton Carmine as a hero. I do have an early assumption that he's Lizzie Carmine's brother and Dee Carmine's son, but I'm not sure as of now. Number 2. Why did we never see any Lambent Kantus? The Lambent were a race of semi-sentient mutants made up of any living organism infected by emulsion. Throughout the games and media, we see different Locust species infected and turned Lambent. We see the Locust drones turn into Lambent drones. We see the Locust boomer species, to be precise the Locust butchers, turn into Lambent gunkers. Even Lambent Therons have been confirmed. So why has there never been any Lambent Kantus? Are they immune to emulsion? Are they an entire different species like what I like to theorize? The Kantus, most notably Skorge, would inhale emulsion fumes in order to access the rift. The Kantus believed that the emulsion allows them to enter the spiritual plane and receive prophetic visions that they used to assist the Horde in various matters, typically military. So why would Kantus high priests like Skorge inhale emulsion fumes, given the fact that lambency spreads through emulsion fumes? Through doing this, Skorge never became a host of lambency, and we never saw any other fully mutated Kantus. So I do think that there's a mystery yet to be explained behind the Kantus species. Number 3. Why were there no berserkers in Gears of War 2? Gears of War 2's story has arguably been known as the best story and campaign in the series, but one mystery behind the game and story is that there were no berserkers seen in Gears of War 2. None at all. This is really strange, considering that in Gears of War 2, you go into the Hollow, you infiltrate the Locust capital Nexus, you're deep in Locust territory, you're in the middle of an all-out war in Operation Hollow Storm, so why do you not see a single berserker at all? They definitely weren't extinct at this time as they were seen in Gears of War 3's campaign, which is later on in the timeline. What I do think is that it could have been a big oversight by the developers, but I'm not sure, hence why I think it's a big mystery in Gears lore. Number 4. What happened to the other 2 Riftworms? The giant Riftworm seen in Gears of War 2 was only one of 3 Riftworms. They were known as the Trinity of Worms, and this was also the polytheistic religion of the Locust Horde, based on the Riftworms and their queen, as they believed that the Riftworms are their gods, or life givers, as they not only created the tunnel network known as the Hollow, but also created life within the Hollow that led to the eventual creation of the Locust Horde. In Nexus, in the inner sanctum of the Temple of the Trinity, Keat of Roll showed Skorge this pretty confidential room, and we saw the illustrations of the 3 worms. The 3 worms were known to be dormant, but the Gears 2 Riftworm was dormant until the Lightmass Bomb's activation at the end of Gears 1, which awoke the giant Riftworm. But either the other 2 Riftworms are still dormant, or they're dead anyway after the sinking of Jacinto at the end of Gears 2. But we don't know if they can drown or not. Their physiology might be so different, so I'd love to know more information on the mystery surrounding the other 2 Riftworms. Number 5. Where was Skorge during Gears of War 1's timeline? The big bad boss from Gears 2, Skorge, High Priest of the Trinity of Worms, and later High General of the Locust Army after Raam's death. But where was he during Gears of War 1's timeline? We can of course safely assume he was killing hundreds and thousands of humans in the Locust War, but we saw him on Emergence Day right alongside Ram. From there he isn't seen once until 14 years later in Operation Hollow Storm. Perhaps he was still leading the Kantus in their missions during the years prior. I know in Gears 1, in terms of game development, Skorge and the Kantus weren't even a thing until being introduced in Gears 2, but this is where they can use DLCs, comics and so on to bridge these gaps. I think they should explore more of Skorge's past and his battles in the Locust War, just like in Gears of War 3's DLC, Ram's Shadow. But that, my friends, are 5 of the biggest unexplained mysteries I could find and think of in the Gears of War lore expanded universe. Let me know if you can think of any mysteries in the Gears lore as well. Drop a like, and if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more similar content on the channel. I'm your host Abz, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.